Umandela uthayihlome wena uthayihlo Umandela uthayihlome ihlasele siyaya ngomkhonto wesizwe lusaka wena uthayi oyangilaya nayihlome wena uthayi oyangilaya ayihlome ihlasele siyaya ngomkhonto wesizwe lusaka wena uthayihlome.
Hello, welcome to a special edition of Politricking with Tshidi Madia. My name is Tshidi Madia. This week, we caught up with the legendary Blondie, Makhene, and Dr. Sisanda Nkoala as we explore the link between politics and song. If you follow any political party, then you know the saying, music is the food of life, is very true. And if you follow the race to Nasrec too, the ANC's national conference is coming to a head. The governing party is finally at its 55th national conference this week. Two names marred in controversy lead the pack. With over 2,000 nods, Ramaphosa has the most branch nominations. Zweli Mkhize is trailing behind. The funny thing about politics is things don't necessarily go away. So issues don't go away, like the songs don't go away. But what was interesting for me is going to provincial conferences and hearing this song. Remember? It was popular at the height of the Jacob Zuma era. It was sang about his detractors. But I also remember 2017, a Workers' Day rally, a May Day rally in the Free State, when the workers then started saying to him, "What's amaya? They started saying that about Zuma. But the interesting thing about Lili in the world of politics and everything else is hearing that song being used against Ramaphosa. The 2017 path, right, that was being cleared for Ramaphosa made a mockery of Zuma. Suddenly, as he marches back to Nasrec, this is what's being sung about him in some quarters of the mighty ANC. As they say in politics, nothing is cast in stone. Livili liajiga, such as is life. What I do love about conference politics, though, is you don't need to ask questions about whether different provinces stand on leadership or on any key matters. In the ANC, it's 12 structures, all seen as provinces. Now, these are made up of the 9 provinces, as you know them. So, your Limpopo, your Gauteng, blah, 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 and so on and so forth. Plus the 3 leagues, the women, the youth, as well as the veterans. They all have a say. And as they arrive at Nasrec, or wherever the party is gathering, they make it very clear where they stand. This is a long tradition, and our music has been used to communicate a standpoint in the former liberation movement, an idea Ntate Blondie Makhene has a lot to say about. So, one of the big things for anybody who covers an elective conference of any party really, but more so the ANC, is you'll always be captured by the singing. There's messages from different provinces that are delivered in song. Their preferences come to you in song, and what their frustrations are also come to you in song. So we thought maybe let's look at a conference from that perspective. The role of music sang by ordinary citizens and what that means. So I really think I'm privileged. I didn't think that in my political career I'll have this conversation, but I'm joined now by Ntate Blondie Makhene. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And I want to speak a little bit about that. I mean, as I was saying to you earlier, my introduction to you is really music from back in the day during the struggle period. And maybe we must start here. Let's start where we are. When you reflect back on who you've been and the role of music and what it's been in South Africa's history and South Africa's pathway, what comes to mind?
That's basically, I think what comes to mind is really communication. Because when I started getting involved with documenting the music, it was really about communication. We had just come out of 1985. We just came out of a period of refrigeration where we stayed cold for a long while, and I wanted to break the ice and get us back into communicating about our struggle, because it was frightening to go through the period of state of emergency in 1985. It was very, 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 we were cold, basically. You think of the cruelty of the Nationalist Party, and you're like, we're okay the way things are, let's stay afraid, let's stay frightened, and because I'm not a politician really, there was a time when my peers, we were getting ready to leave in 76, 77. And one of the things that happened was, as I was getting ready to leave with my peers, my sister, who was also very active, found me picking up my plastic with my T-shirt and my jeans,
Ready for exile.
Yes, yeah. You couldn't pack too much things.
No, you can't. You're traveling far, yeah.
And I know you'll be seen. I mean, with bags and stuff like that. So, and she found me and she says, "And you, what are you doing? I know what you are doing, you guys. I'm in touch with the guys. I know even what taxi you guys are going to be using to go there." He says, "You are not fit to go to the bush, You and your ped leg, you're not strong. You can't be running around with the AK-47 in the bush, He says, "You stay or I'm going to talk. I'm going to sell you all out, and you must know if I talk, all of you are going to be arrested.
Yes.
So you stay. There are other things you will find to do to help the struggle, but you're not going." And that's how I was held back. And ever since that time, I'm like, what do I do? And then you get exposed to comrades who come and tell you about Comrade Mao Zedong, and because there was not enough books going around.
Yes, because some books were banned at the time.
They were banned, most of them. And I get this quotation that in a concrete jungle, one needs to build a jungle, for the struggle, because in the concrete jungle of Johannesburg, where do you hide? How do you hide yourself? And for a number of years, I searched for the answer, and I realized that you have to actually build consciousness around people. You have to have your freedom fighters mingle with ordinary people. How do you do that? And then there was that I have to build this jungle, but then how do I do it in this state of things? The way things are in South Africa. The Boer didn't mess around with you. You know, I didn't want to go to ANC or struggle. What you call it?
The events and the rallies they had.
Not necessarily to go to your house as a leader
okay.
of one of the struggle leaders, you know, and hang out with you, because already I had interviews with these boers who come to me and like, yeah, you know you, we see who you with, and we're watching you, you know. And when you mix with these guys, you know, then you become a target yourself,
of course.
you know, and whatever mission I was plotting in my head would be disrupted because of my hanging out with comrades, you know. So I stayed away from them and worked on a plan, you know. And one day in Jena, I was listening to the radio, SABC radio, and they played a song that I learned when I was about 14, 15 years in Port Elizabeth, from a nurse called Loretta Macapella. I had to go and sleep at her house, you know, after the concert. And you know, my elders in the band, I was like 15, 14, you know, everybody's got a cheek here, you know.
And you're the baby, yeah.
And she's standing there and looking and seeing me like, you know, kind of a little bit confused about what's going to happen to me tonight. And she says, okay, guys, please, can I have him? My son is not sleeping at home. He's at college, you know, and his bed is empty. Can I have this young man go and stay overnight at my place? And in the morning when I woke up, well, the first time I slept in a bed on my own at 15, you know, that thing, there's always a visitor. There's always, you know, so I never had the opportunity to sleep in my own bed. And I woke up to this song, to be young, gifted and black. Oh, what a precious love, oh, what a loving, precious thing. There's a world waiting for you. Yours is a quest that's just begun. And when you're feeling you low, there's that we can all be proud and say, we are young, gifted, and black.
It's where it's a fact. Yes. I know that song very well.
I fell in love with this song, and she said, yeah, you, and I said, can I have these records? She says, no, you can't. You're going to get arrested, you know? And I had to learn the song right there. It's a long song. I wrote every word of it, and I learned it. And when I left there, and there was another one, yes. I took those songs with me. I put them in my head. And then one day, years later, I was listening to SABC, you know, still trying to think of a way to be involved in the liberation of our people. And they played Young, Gifted and Black by Houston Person, which was a saxophonist, a tenor saxophonist. I was like, if you knew the words of this song, you wouldn't play it. But then they had a policy at SABC, if it is mute, it can be played.
Oh, that's a way around the system.
And then I locked into that. Boom! I went back and I checked out some amazing songs which my little nephew was bringing to me, you know, from the streets, you know. Siyam ibongo, siyam senzeni na bababum emzansi Afrika asilazi cala. And then I said, if I remove the words, it is mute and it will be played. And I started collecting these songs. And I started recording these songs without the words, you know. One of the things I told myself was, you know, one day we definitely are going to be free, you know. Bo Mandela, they will come out, they will rule, you know. and there will be statues of Mandela, and so and so and so and so. But the songs after liberation will be history. They will be dead and buried. And I decided to document these, and I decided to be the bridge of communication between our people, Ekasi, between Lusaka and South Africa.
Yeah.
And because at the time, most of our leaders were either in exile or in prison and stuff like that. And I had to just build this monument of song.
Can I tell you what song it is when you speak about building the bridge? It is Umandela Utai Hlome. And that's literally where your voice rings in my head to date. Do you regret stepping back and minimizing your voice in order to observe and to give to what was coming? I mean, the ANC was coming into power. Most black people, I think very much like you, most Africans, decided to take a step back and allow what felt like a more organized structure to take over. And I ask now, with 2022 in mind, when you look at what the ANC's done in government, what is your take?
It doesn't matter how I stayed in and kept on activating, being an activist. I don't think if you look at the Sunset Clause, for instance, the Sunset Clause came to close me down. To close me down for 26 years, like, whoop, go away, We don't want to hear you. We don't want to see you. We don't want to fund you. We don't want to fund the resurrection of the African people. We don't want to fund the healing of the African people, because mina ngingumgoma. As I have also become a sangoma, I am a man of song, and which means that I am amongst prophets. For me to be heard, it's got to be the drum, it's got to be the song, and to actually propose the Sunset Clause in the deal was basically to shut me down and all my brothers who struggled through song, who encouraged people, who gave post-traumatic stress disorders attention through song. We were closed down, and it was sad. It was sad. I didn't mind stepping back. I respect our leaders. I respect that they went to school and I didn't, I respect that. And so I had to give those that know better, and I could have continued. But when the Sunset Clause came in, I would have been going against the law. If you look at the past 28, 30 years, the government, the governing parties agreed that I do not participate in that the government should not pay me for my activations, and I was closed out. So for the past 28 years, 30 years, I've been sitting out there and waiting for the Sunset Clause to come to an end, which means, Guti, I've starved my family, which means that I haven't been a dad except a beautiful dad that I am to my children. I love my kids. I raise them up. I'm there as much as I can. But when you cannot be there financially for the children, you're half a dad, So I'm sad that I've been half a dad. I am sad that the 26 years has passed and nothing has opened up, I think the guys were just hoping that by now I would be dead.
Talk to me about what it means for things to open up, the things that have made it difficult for you. You speak about the sunset clauses, but you speak about how you're not alone. You've been starved and waiting for so long. Just to elaborate to us what you mean by that.
No work for the music maker. No stage for the music maker to express. Because my freedom, fighting for freedom, or my engagement was not about that I'm going to get rich No, it was about setting the playing fields, to just level the playing fields so that I can express my thoughts, I can express my desires anytime, without offending other people, but I could speak, I could think, I could develop thoughts, I could develop ideas and implement and put them into play. You understand? It's about the mind. I may not be financially in a correct space.
But even that, though, one would imagine that having done what you've done in the lead up to democracy, the democratic government should have avenues, instruments to support artists in order to do all those things so that you're not financially compromised as you attempt to build that particular avenue of that psyche of society. And I say this very quickly because the NC has abandoned or hasn't paid enough attention, rather, to issues of archiving, to our history, to our culture, to any of those things. They go to a conference now, the 55th National Conference, being told by its own members that you don't care and you've not cared enough about our history, our archiving, about who and what we are as a people. It's one thing to build statues. It's a whole different thing to understand who and what we are and to find meaning in our existence. And I think they haven't paid enough attention to that.
We haven't paid enough attention to the heritage of this country. We haven't, because heritage is not something that's there. If this studio becomes your heritage, it's because man was there, and that man has to be credited for that. I don't believe in principles without a person. Where there's a principle, there must be a person. I'm not as Christian as I would like to be. Christians would believe in principles that come from the air, but my principles have to connect to a person.
What is your hope for yourself? For us as younger generations in a country where song has evolved but does remain on some level or another a part and parcel of who we are as a people?
It's going to be hard for you young people. Absolutely. I respect you. I look up to you because that's what an elder should do. I didn't struggle to be a hero. I struggled so that you guys can be able to be in the positions that you are today and have the voice that you have today to freely be able to express yourself. That was my struggle, My parting shot, it's going to take a long time for us to achieve any of the ideals of freedom that we ever espoused in our heads. This world belongs to a God, but that God does not live in South Africa. He's probably in England, probably in America. He doesn't aspire to give you your desires and to grow you from where he's a God of enterprise. He's a God of business, and all he respects is profit. And he's going to be keeping you in your place for a very, very long time. You have to lay back and save your energy and come up with new strategies of how to go forward and how to prosper this nation. Thank you.
Would song be one of the strategies that we should be looking to?
Absolutely. Song, we sing it when we cry. We sing it when we're happy. We sing it when a child is born. Song is the staff that Moses had to fight Pharaoh.
Blondie Makhene, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, ma'am, for having me.
Thank you.
Togos.
Dr. Sisanda Nkoala argues that these songs remain a key way of communication in politics and beyond, and says we must preserve their role in today's society. As we've been continuing with these conversations around the ANC's upcoming national conference, I think the one thing that captures my mind all the time when it comes to politics or anything in the country is the role of song right? So I've been talking about the songs. I'm enamored with the songs, but I think there's a need to understand why songs are used a little bit better. I'm bringing in a scholar now, Dr. Sisanda Nkoala, who help us understand the importance of song in everyday life, the evolution of song as a method of communication. Doctor, thank you so much for joining me. South Africans, whether it's a protest on the streets or whatever it is, we are synonymous with song in how we communicate. I remember a lot of comedians when they talk about how we protest, they say, "Oh, that the happiest protesters they're singing." Just how is it that this became a method of communication for us as a people?
So I think it is not just us, it dates back centuries. Some scholars put it as early as the biblical times when the Israelites were leaving Egypt and they were singing sort of songs of protest as they exited that particular oppressive context. And even in other contexts where there is oppression in Latin America, even in Europe at some stage, music has been used as a way of people who cannot express what they really want to say, being able to say that. So I think with South Africans, what makes it particularly noteworthy is that it seems sometimes like it's happy songs, even amid a very sad situation. And I think it's something that we do deliberately because we perhaps have had such a long history of being oppressed. So some of the music that I look at, for example, is one of the songs that I've studied is Shona Malanga. And if you sing Shona Malanga, it seems like a very happy song about the sun setting, we'll meet together. And yet when you unpack the lyrics, the depth of just the dissent that comes through in those lyrics is one example of how a song can seem like it is happy and celebratory, but we are communicating so much through the metaphors. And it's probably because of our rich history, or not our rich history, our long history of oppression, but also maybe because of how we tell stories and articulate ourselves.
You make me think about a song that I hear quite often in the ANC circles, Tambo Bambisandla Sami, and that song is often sang by ANC members, but when you listen to it, it speaks about how the sun is also setting on someone's life and how their remains will be found somewhere in exile and how you must go communicate to their loved ones that, this is where they were left in the struggle for democracy. Just talking about that, what is your observation of how that evolution has been? I mean, we do come from a long history of strife. We carry that, though, even in the political landscape. What is your assessment or your understanding of that evolution from just the strife and even protest culture to it being the language of communication in political spaces?
The interesting thing with struggle songs or protest music, and I think particularly within a political party, we might call it revolutionary songs, because people are often not protesting or struggling, but they're using the music to sort of speak and say things that they don't feel free to say. So I think the beauty of songs, particularly struggle songs, is how so a song could start off saying one thing in one generation, and as the struggle changed, the lyrics would change to fit the mood of this new generation. So I go back again to Shona Malanga, which is one of the songs that I've studied more in depth. When it started at first, it was called Sheila's Day. It was a song used by apparently domestic workers to celebrate their day off. And as the struggle moved and became more militant, the lyrics changed from "we will meet on Sheila's Day" to "we will meet with our AK-47s." And you see that change not in the song and the melody, but in the lyrics, because of what is happening in a particular context. So it is very interesting when we watch within a party that has been using song for so many generations, doing that and using it to speak to maybe the opposing faction, and that faction will understand the rich meaning in a particular lyric, and yeah, it has a great effect. So yeah, it's I think with the songs, it's not just what they say in the moment, but all that intertextuality that comes back from when the song was originally sung and what particular lyrics it used to use to how they have been changed to the present context. So this song that you mentioned about Tambo, for example, I mean, we obviously know that they are not part of any particular faction in the current climate, and yet when somebody mentions that, they will have that background knowledge as to what exactly is being communicated.
Will there ever be a period? I mean, you speak now about how the songs have evolved. Will there ever be a period where we as a society move away from the songs? And what kind of society would we be if that was the idea? Or is this how you will identify who we are? I mean, you've spoken about how also it's not just a South African thing, it's a world over thing. But in our context, will there be a moment where who we are as a society breaks away from communicating in song? Is that even a thing?
You know, I think if that were to ever happen, it would probably be simultaneously to when we as a society move away from love songs. Music is so intricate to who we are as people, but particularly as Africans and as South Africans. I think our political communication techniques really have it at the center, because we understand that it is not enough in a crowd of, let's say, 100,000 people to make a speech. That's not our culture. The Greeks and that kind of oratory culture, that would maybe resonate. But in our culture, we understand that music is what moves us. Music is what gets us to think about what is being deliberated on. And music is what helps us articulate ourselves. So I don't think we should ever lose that political culture, political communication culture. Of course, we've seen in recent months and years, perhaps, the issue of struggle music and certain struggle songs being brought before the courts because of lyrics that are said to be hate speech. And even there, we've seen the courts finding that actually, because of how these songs articulate and provide metaphors for us to talk, it would not be wise to completely ban them. So I think even from that perspective, and I think thirdly, we've seen new political parties emerge, and they being able to apportion the songs in their context. So people would assume struggle music belongs to so-called struggle parties like the African National Congress and the IFP,
yes.
but we've seen parties like the EFF apportioning them because they understand the history and the significance of the music as being central to how political communication. So in short, I hope not. I hope this remains a part of how we communicate.
And then just your observations. Thank you for that. Just your observations. Finally, just wanted to know if you've been observing the way music is working in the ANC. I always marvel, and I speak about the ANC because the conference is taking place, but I always marvel at seeing different provinces come in with a different message. I don't know if you've been observing how they also use music. I think by and large, if I had to have a wide description of it, you've already nailed how music is playing itself out in the political space. But have you been observing the push and pull around when music is used in order to back particular candidates or to denounce particular leaders?
I must confess to you that I have not with this particular upcoming election within the party. Yeah, within the conference. I think, but what you're saying in terms of how provinces will use a song to indicate what kind of faction they support certainly makes sense and would certainly follow what music is used for. So my particular focus on struggle music has always been in the context of how they were used by Black South Africans in the context of apartheid to speak out against the oppression they were facing. And it's always that dynamic of the oppressed having a voice through song and speaking out to the oppressor. And in the context of the ANC, that's not the case. You know, I don't think any one group can call itself oppressed versus oppressor. So there's certainly scope for scholars to look at how within parties that messaging is received and sent out, and yeah, then provide commentary to help us understand, even at an advanced before people go to conference, who a particular province is backing just by looking at the songs they are singing.
As we look forward to seeing thousands of party members attempt to reposition the party, I, for one, am looking forward to seeing how they'll use their voices to tell us who they are, what they want, and what they stand for going forward. Will be coming to you from Nazareth. Catch our daily raps on EWN or on all major streaming platforms. This podcast was produced by Duduzile Masuku and Amu Ramela. For Eyewitness News, my name is Tshidi Madia.
To a democratic non-racial South Africa. Forward.